episode number 13 of the Shoedogg and Mike podcast, lucky number 13. Thanks for joining us wherever you are out there, whether you're listening on Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, on all those necessary websites. Please make sure you like us, you follow us, you subscribe to us, whatever appropriate way that website tells you to be a fan of ours. Be our fan, baby. Be our guest, put our podcast to the test. All right, that will never happen again. If you'd like to hear more bad singing from me, you won't find it on our Twitter page, but please do follow us on Twitter at ShoedoggM, where you'll hear some of our extra views from what you hear here on the show, along with all the updates of when we're going to air. Mike, I'm out of breath. Are you there, my friend?
Man, R.I.P. headphone users.
Oh, I am so winded. I need a cigarette.
Can you almost kind of feel it coming when you're going to get musical? Or does it just kind of jump out of the woods?
It completely jumped out of the woods.
Yeah, it felt that way.
There was no intention of there being a sing-along with Shoedogg on this episode. Sing-along with Bernie later, that's always possible.
It's kind of hard to separate you from the singing at this point.
It's so weird because the couple of random times I've broken out in tune on the podcast is as much as I sing anytime, anywhere. Well, we did leave that really bad My Corona parody on the floor a couple months ago. I recorded it, and it went where it belonged, in the recycling bin. So I saved the world from hearing that. The other part, that's staying, just because. So, all right. Shall we get the traditional show starter out of the way?
Yes, I'm in favor.
What do you got with you tonight?
Well, being that it's that time of year, I'm finishing off what is a really nice thing to have around during the summer. The lighter beers, not to say the fruity stuff, but just, the more refreshing stuff that you enjoy in the hotter months. And of course, when my dad came out and visited, he brought some shandy with him. It's nothing fancy, but it's delicious. And now we're gonna just go ahead and move into the fall beers. But you know me, I can't handle these ones that are like a sweater.
No, you'll be in the once this shandy there, the Leinenkugel goes down, you'll be in your Sam Adams Oktoberfest any day now. I, however, will stick with the Old Faithful of some spiced Bacardi rum.
That's a good get. That is a good get.
Oh, it feels like we're having a party up in here. It's like it's a celebration. So, are you prepared to be put on the spot by this thesis I've come up with?
Yeah, you said hot take before, so that got me thinking. That got the gears turning.
Yep. I'm going to go out on a limb. Last episode we talked about our general dislike for the current Raw product, especially part out of the WWE, and for every bit of good reason, and you all know we love AEW. I have got numbers in front of me on the issue, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say, notwithstanding these last month or so when AEW's been bounced all over the place because of the NBA, but the last several weeks I have ratings here for, and I'm willing to go so far as to say it is time. Fuck the Wednesday Night Wars. It's time for the Monday Night Wars. It's time for AEW to move to Monday nights and for AEW to legitimately, I think, compete with Raw.
But what if that's not their stated goal?
I'm not saying that it is. Maybe if they don't want to do it, then it's irrelevant. But I love the prospect, and I look at the numbers, how much Raw is falling, AEW's coming up. You split the difference. You realize some people are only watching one show, not the other. And I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Now they'd be splitting. I mean, they might be splitting like a 2 million total person audience that might shift a little bit week to week. But I don't think WWE Raw is in any great state of strength that a good head-to-head competitor wouldn't be completely valid.
I think it would, if anything, it would just hasten the amount of time before they get booted from their slot. Because unless you're going with the theory of competition makes it better for the consumer, which I don't think is going to be the case with TV, but it could be. If you want to say that maybe WWF and WCW elevated their game because of the competition, then I don't think I could discredit you, but I don't know if that's going to always be the case. You're talking about two things that are basically not even running parallel to each other in a sense, because although they might compete with how many times people leave their house a year for a live event, as far as like merchandise goes and consuming content, you're almost going to two different audiences at times.
Well, that's part of my premise. I mean, if you want me to get more specific, I've just been vague with the numbers I have here. I mean, for as much as AEW fans bitch and moan, we hate Raw. I bet most of them are watching. So I mean, I think that if you take the average of 820,000 people that have watched Dynamite from July into August, the last 5 weeks that they were head to head, Raw the last 5 weeks has drawn an average of 1.64 million people. I mean, there's nobody I think that watches AEW that would watch Raw over it. So AEW is going to have their same solid base of fans. There's some NXT fans who probably also don't watch Raw, but would watch AEW on that night of the week. I mean, maybe it is wishful thinking. Maybe I just want that old Monday Night War back, and I want to see WWE get more egg on its face. AEW threw shade on Triple H and has beat NXT almost every week they've been head to head. In total viewers, not just demos in honor of Chris Jericho, although of course they're killing it in the demos. I just don't think it would be silly. How's that sound? I think it would at least be a competitive matchup. It wouldn't be like when Impact tried to go against Raw. That was a stomp job, but that was when Raw had fucking 4 million viewers, not 1.6. So, I guess it's kind of hard to compare the two. So you just kind of feel maybe like it's almost like it's like the equivalent of fantasy booking. Like you don't think that's in anybody's nobody's trying to make it happen. Like you don't think Tony Khan even wants that. You don't think if he could take the chance to compete with the big dog, the main show, he wouldn't want to.
Well, if that's what ensures his success, then yeah. But if he has a different bar to clear based on the terms of how he's being financed or the relationship between him and TNT, for example, or how much does his dad have on the line? Again, I think that's where WWE differs from everybody else in the field because they are this completely publicly owned company who just deals in a completely separate obstacle course than every other pro wrestling that there is to consume. Because they not only have to be in that market, but they also have to hit all these benchmarks that corporations that have people that buy their stock want them to hit.
Oh yeah.
If Tony Khan blows a bunch of his dad's money, he might he may or may not have issues with his dad afterwards, but he's not going to have a bunch of shareholders like sending bags of dog shit to his house.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Once you've gone Wall Street, it's they are the ones in charge of your destiny, no doubt about that. And that's a toxic atmosphere everywhere in the world, really. When the shareholders become the ultimate fucking representative of everything. Oh well, we might lose money this quarter. Well, we better fire a few hundred people because we sure can't let the stock go down a half a dollar.
That's not to say that wrestling isn't doesn't already have its own long history of being toxic. Without the shareholder aspect, which just compounds it to me.
You just mean like shady promoters taking advantage of the wrestlers, shit
Well, no,
like
I just
that?
mean even now, like when we talk about those two competing, I think one of the arenas that comes inherent with that is in mainstream media. Like you said before about, you've said this multiple times actually, about how noticeable something, when someone moves the needle, so to speak. And you obviously, for sheer capitalism reasons, want to say, yeah, we can go toe to toe in toy figure sales and clothing sales and merchandise in general and stuff like that. But you don't want to be in the mainstream with negative press either. Um, so AEW, as fast as they ascend and expand, they're also dealing with a lot of the same stuff. And I know that they popped up in the mainstream very recently because Sports Illustrated did a story on them releasing Jimmy Havoc. And if you're let's just say, for example, you're a non-wrestling fan, and you're just somebody who likes, well, you're not an anti-wrestling fan, but you're like a neutral person, and you just like sports or whatever. So Sports Illustrated did a story on it, which brings it to whatever crowd that is that kind of peruses Sports Illustrated. And the way they're tinting it, it's very bad optics for wrestling as a whole, but certainly for AEW. I think their headline was basically as easy as like, AEW releases Jimmy Havoc after allegations of rape and abuse. Dude, that's a pretty fucking grim headline to get smacked on the nuts with if you're running a business, no matter who your competitors are. I just think there's bigger things, there's bigger forces at play in our society right now than whatever's going to be generated by these two brands having friction with each other. I think it's going to be dwarfed by the bigger picture shit with the racial upheaval, people, having issues with that, and kind of learning about people's biases and stuff in an ugly way. And we've got the police thing, and we've got the government problems, and we've got, and this stuff's permeating. If you just have to flat out raid your locker room and find out that you have creeps and rapists in there.
Well, it's a good thing no NFL players ever got in trouble for rape.
Not that Jimmy Havoc, or not that they initiated this whole thing. I mean, I think it goes back to the speaking out thing in June, where people just started name dropping wrestlers and people in wrestling left and right all of a sudden.
I'm surprised that didn't get more traction at the time than it did.
Well, they mention it in the Sports Illustrated piece. Yeah, I mean, it's not the focus because the piece was just about the releases, really, but the way they headlined it, which was, to me, stifling enough. But then when you play the little video that's attached to the article, it has a chyron that basically sounds right off of Fox News. It says, "More allegations of abuse surface within pro wrestling." I mean, replace pro wrestling with Catholic Church. I mean, that's pretty bad press right there. That, to me, is 10 times more significant than ratings or demos, or everything's so limited right now, and will continue to be. I mean, you gotta acknowledge that a few months ago, we were talking about being in quarantine and recording in quarantine and how we were going to do this show, and we were semi-joking about it. You start thinking, well, this could be the way things are now.
Until there's a vaccine, at the very least.
And so, some kind of straight-up head-to-head competition with the two promotions, although I think it would be a great distraction, I just don't think it's going to gain the kind of kinetic energy that it would need to really take off the way the Monday Night Wars did, or even just, you don't even have to restrict it to pro wrestling. You could say, like, when you had late night shows that were feuding, or
You know what? This is why the demographics have become such the most talked about element of this whole thing is because in general television viewership is fucking 25% of what it was 15 years ago, all across the board, because of streaming and the internet and every other goddamn thing. And that's, you know, what it's come down to. I mean, but both NXT and, yeah, I talked about when Impact went head to head with Raw. Impact used to average a 1 to a 1.2 rating every week, and that seemed sad 15 years ago, 10 years ago. And now you got, you know, well, the two shows combined draw more than that, admittedly, without splitting viewers. But you see how much lower the bar has gone.
Well, and on top of that, you know, as big, you know, as many waves of highs and lows come and go, to me, like I said before, it's always going to be dwarfed by the bigger forces at play, the bigger issues at play. I don't think wrestling has still come anywhere close to fully recovering from the stigma of, you know, people dying at a young age and people getting into lifestyles that are destructive and, you know, violent and, you know, drug addled. I think it's still happening. I mean, we had I don't know if I'm bursting your information cherry on this or not, but we had a death, another premature death in the wrestling industry not too long ago here with this, you know, and again, forgive me because I'm no indie darling. I don't saddle up on a weeknight with my New Japan or my ROH or TNA or any of that stuff. But from what I understand, a gentleman who had a background in CZW and possibly other promotions who I think at the moment was in Ring of Honor by the name of Xavier. He was apparently a favorite and he just died. And he was only, you know, he was a year younger than my brother. So he was like 43. And so they, you know, they're still going to have to wade through all the shit that, you know, listen, maybe steroids is off the table now as something that people can shit on pro wrestling for, but the toxic masculinity is still a bad optic. The, you know, the utter culture.
Yeah, you're renegades, you're rogues,
You really don't want to sit there and make that your badge of honor. And so before they can be some kind of thing that gets remembered for their competitiveness, I think they just have to be as creative as possible and hit as big of an audience as possible so that they can shake some of that shit off. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if maybe if they're just more honest with themselves and they do the more adult programming, will that ultimately come across as a purified version of it because they'll at least stop pretending that these are superheroes or Avengers characters.
walking, talking action figures. That's Vince's idea.
Nowadays, if they move into a time slot across from WWE, it doesn't affect me whatsoever because I'm not doing anything differently other than watching AEW on a different night of the week.
Exactly. It just seemed like a fun hypothetical. I'd like to see it happen, and I thought after crunching some numbers that mathematically it was completely feasible. So, you were talking, you brought it up earlier, reminding me about that great Cameo video
Huh.
that you had Tommy Dreamer send me.
You mean that promo? That wasn't some mall autograph table. That was a you had heat for a minute.
Cameo's an amazing place, especially in quarantine, because these celebrities can do what we're all doing, which is sit in front of their fucking webcam and get paid oodles of money for like a 1 minute message. So I dove into that thing, and first off, I have to question some of their categorization of people, maybe some of their standards, if you will. Because on the front page of Cameo, they had a a subtab celebrating black excellence, which is all well and good. And it featured such luminary athletes as Mariano Rivera, Lennox Lewis, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Wait, did you say Karoom?
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Okay. I was getting. Never mind. You're fine.
Lennox Lewis and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar both wanting $500 for a little video message. $750 to hear from Mariano Rivera. Legendary athletes. They certainly belong under that subgrouping of celebrating black excellence. However, they also have some folks listed who I'm not sure they celebrate black excellence or not. You had Zeus, aka the actor Tiny Lister. You know what movie he was in? Come on, what movie was Tiny Lister in?
Well, he was in a bunch of good ones, but mainly I know him for Friday, where he played Debo, the neighborhood bully who, ultimately fought Ice Cube in the thrilling conclusion of the movie.
The thrilling conclusion.
I also know him from No Holds Barred with Hogan.
How much do you think he charges for a little Skype call message on Cameo?
Well, if he does it in character as Debo, I mean, he could probably command any price he wanted to because people are scared shitless of him. I don't know, $300.
Only $100. I guess you're gonna sign up to get a message from Zeus because it's a steal at twice the price.
Hell yeah, for that amount. Who else wants some of Debo?
I don't know.
Right?
I think the bigger question is who wants some of your boy Flavor Flav? Yeah, Flavor Flav considered black excellence. $250
Sure.
will get you a call from Flavor Flav.
I would do it. I'd ask him what time it is right away.
So, now that we've gotten the general flavor of the Cameo covered, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. Let me see here. Where do we want to start? Believe it or not, there was only one legitimate rock star on there. I went under the category of rock musicians, and there's only one person who truly is a big name, and that would be Alice Cooper.
Nice.
What do you think Alice Cooper charges for a cameo?
The other X factor to consider with cameos is that I guess to an extent, these people can decide whether their average video is going to be of a certain length. So really anybody who you might think would be super expensive, well maybe their video is only a minute long, whereas other people, who might be more humble, they might say, "Oh yeah, $200 and I'll read you from my damn journal or whatever." But Alice Cooper, I'll round up for him and I'll say 175.
300 smackers.
See, now I've insulted him.
How dare you?
But I loved $1 Million Baby, and I loved that one, what probably was thought of as a corny video at the time for what was that, the Nightmare on Elm Street soundtrack that he did? One of them slasher flicks.
Yeah, he was in Nightmare on Elm Street 4, I think. I don't recall
good shit.
I don't recall the song. I'm sure it was. I remember him being in the movie. He played Freddy's dad. Yes,
Respect
he did.
to Alice Cooper on that one.
Good thought on that one. There is one legend from Saturday Night Live from the original cast who makes cameos.
Original cast. Oh, is that what I'm guessing, or am I guessing their price?
Yeah, you can, if you want to throw a dart at the wall on the person.
Okay, original cast. It's gonna be. This is a weak area for me. I'm not some kind of goddamn SNL lifer, but I'll say I'll go with original Steve Martin.
That would be kind of cool. Nah, Steve Martin don't need the money. Of course, it's Chevy Chase for the win.
Oh, geez, he overcharges like a motherfucker. I already know because he's kind of a dick.
And he looks completely haggard on the sample videos they show you, and more confused than Joe Biden. And he wants $500 to give you one of those.
They probably wouldn't even give him $500 to play Biden on SNL.
Here's a good one. Reclusive actor Richard Dreyfuss.
I loved What About Bob. That's one of my favorite movies. $375.
Because of his reclusivity, he charges $999 whoppers.
What is the maximum price on there? $1,000? Is that how they do it?
I guess we'll just jump the shark right now. No. There is one celebrity who has a $2,500 price tag.
Oh shit! It goes up that high. Who is it? Is it Janet Jackson? It's Chris Tucker.
I bet you'd guess 1,000 celebrities, and you'd never guess what pompous fucking douchehole, and who's probably sold a few of them, wants $2,500.
Ben Shapiro. Sean Hannity.
Caitlyn Jenner.
Oh
what
man,
the fuck?
he is the worst.
He is the worst. He is fucking pathetic.
Listen, I would pay. Listen, there are some things on this earth that I would handily pay $2,500 for. That is not even in the top 1 million.
Exactly. But would you pay $150 for a member of the New Day to give you a cameo?
Sure. Which one? Is it all three of them, or do you use separately, or?
They're all on there separately, which surprised me that WWE would allow such a thing. Totally shocked.
I bet you Xavier Woods would do a mean spot for us, like if we cameoed him, because he has a whole sideshow running with up down down, and he's very web streaming friendly, and it probably just does it for fun anyway and whatnot.
And internet pornography friendly. He's all over the internets.
Yeah, well, that's when you've truly made it.
Famous enough to have a sex tape.
You don't have to be famous. You could be on Pornhub Community. It doesn't really matter.
But when your sex tape is important because you're famous, not just one of 8 million poorly choreographed filmed things on the Pornhub.
Why do you always say it's poorly choreographed? I've seen some with excellent plots and acting and really believable characters with their own struggles.
Well, they're always in an immense personal strife to achieve an orgasm, but that is the wonderful thing about pornography, is that usually at the end everybody does have a happy ending to the story. So I've very rarely seen a porno that ends with nobody at least feigning being pleased. Although that would be pretty good. You're fucking watching a porno, guy gets off her, and she's like, "Good God, what was that?" No.
Get the fuck out of my house. I had an idea for this year. You and I, as we adapt to the quarantine life, we should find our own way of celebrating the holidays, right? So we could be festive in spirit for everybody who's missing out on the, I don't know. Are we going to have a Thanksgiving Day parade? Are we going to have trick or treat? Are
you suggesting I sing Christmas carols?
No. Listen, we talked about this. I don't want you getting musical anymore. When I was talking about Jimmy Havoc getting released and what an awful headline that was, I almost left out the fact that they didn't just release him. I just didn't want anybody to get confused and think that like the other people were somehow lumped in with this whole allegation thing. But they also released two of their female wrestlers there, Bea Priestley and Sadie Gibbs, which, full disclosure, I know nothing about. I think you and I have established at this point that we typically go outside and smoke during the women's matches. You can call that misogynistic or exclusive or whatever, but the fact is this: there's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah, I still don't believe either one of them were ever on fucking Dynamite. If they were anything, I mean, maybe they were on Dark. I've never even remotely heard their names.
Well, either way, even if they were moderately famous, it's still going to end up being a footnote in the "we fired a suspected rapist" story.
Or if nothing else, it'll be a footnote on their Wikipedia. Worked for All Elite Wrestling for 3 months. Worked 2 matches on AEW Dark. Which is still 2 more matches on AEW Dark than either one of us ever wrestled. So I'm not trying to make light or make fun of anybody who only gets that shortest of glimpse in the spotlight they've worked their life for, because that would be very disrespectful to the effort they've put in to their craft. I'm just saying I never fucking heard of
Wow.
them.
The point was, I didn't want anybody to make the association in their memory of being like, oh yeah, when they fired Jimmy Havoc and those two other people. Like, no, they deserve their own separate news article.
They fired a bunch of rapists. It's like, no, they fired a rapist and a couple of undercard talents.
What do you think of them snagging the reputable services of Mike Chioda for their in-ring stuff in AEW?
It's always good to have experienced referees. I think any piece of talent that finds a place to land is good if they're put out of a job by the evil McMahon Empire. It does make me wonder what happened to Earl Hebner, because wasn't he a ref in AEW at the beginning? I haven't seen him lately.
Yeah, maybe it was a spot gig. I mean, you gotta face it. They had all kinds of a menagerie of comers and goers there in the early days. They were putting freaking Billy Gunn in battle royals, and they had all kinds of hootenannies, and yeah. It was kind of nice, though, in that brief, chaotic birth.
Oh, yeah. Well, now they just put Billy Gunn in the fucking front row. So, I mean, either way, he has a gig. And, you know, truth be told, I guess you can't deny the fact Hebner's fucking old by now. I mean, last he refed, he still looked like he was moving around good, but dude's got to be over 70.
Well, we joke about not being in any kind of shape to ever attempt wrestling again, as we had done in such an amusing and amateur way before. But I don't even think I could referee a whole pro wrestling match in my current shape. It's not to be taken too lightly. I mean, those guys are working in there too. So when they get up there in age, you know, you don't want Grandpa to break a hip. Well,
let's never forget the referee of our oft-mentioned here backyard wrestling days, the fat one who wouldn't get down on his knees to make a count. He just slapped his thigh.
Well, same thing. I mean,
this was an able-bodied young man. He was just fucking fat and lazy.
Yeah, that's a kind of a different category, but
yes,
but you know what time takes away from you. I think we all know that feeling. I think people who are teenagers even know that feeling because sleep doesn't even satisfy them like it used to when they were children, and you know, it's just aging is just a motherfucker in general. But I admire anybody who does physical stuff on a daily basis. And, you know, Chioda, the first thing I noticed about him was he had a pretty nice looking beer gut going on camera. Or at least it was, like, way more visible when his shirt was tucked in. But, you know, I wouldn't doubt that these dudes also work out.
There's cardio involved in it. I mean, of course.
Or hit the gym or whatever. I don't know if, you know, we could say that for some of these chubbers that we've seen reffing before over the years. But definitely these guys that are, you know, constantly just imagine, I mean, to hell with being a wrestler that does, 300 shows a year. Imagine being a ref that does multiple matches on each show.
Trivia for you. Do you know or recall I mean, I'm sure there's a couple more, but by far the most well-known referee who did begin his career as a wrestler?
Active referee?
I think he's retired within the last 5 years or so, but modern era, certainly.
Dang.
Worked for both major promotions.
Charles Robinson?
Woo! Little Nate.
Oh, wow. Did I actually get that?
No, I just needed a chance to go, woo! No, the correct answer would be the son of the assassin Jody Hamilton, as we know as Nick Patrick.
Shit, he was on my mind too. I was almost gonna ask who was the guy with the curly hair and the rape stash in WCW. Both of those,
and he was also fairly large. I mean, he was as big as most of the wrestlers. I guess he blew out his knee or whatever, and moved to the slightly less bump-heavy version of being in the ring.
These guys are all inevitably going to blow stuff out. I mean, even these little Abercrombie guys they got doing backflips and whatnot now, they're going to blow something out eventually.
Dude, at our age, we can blow something out getting out of bed.
I was just about to say that when I was... so, as you're aware, Ollie, my youngest, is still pretty teeny. And so I was trying to be clever and maneuver a certain way. And man, I almost tore a quad. just by leaning and trying to do too much at once. And I'm thinking, oh, to hell with full contact sports
Yeah,
or
too
holy shit. Yeah, that's a young man's
too
game
much
right
weight
there.
on one leg.
That's why they do it for the money. That's why Nash always said. That's why Kevin Nash would always say, there's no point in doing it if you're not getting paid.
Absolutely.
But that's crazy that Nick Patrick wrestled. Is he on the network? Can we find his
No,
film?
I've never looked for it, but I mean, maybe there is footage of him and whenever the fuck he was wrestling, if you found the right Jim Crockett tape or something, but I don't know that much. I just know he was a wrestler. I can't pinpoint the wheres or the whens. I'd have to research the potentially untrue Wikipedia.
Better question is probably, did he have the rape stash when he wrestled?
Well, he did wrestle one match after he was a referee. He wrestled at World War III, 1997, I believe, or 8. I guess it could be either. I'm going to say 97. And he wrestled everybody's favorite. I don't know exactly what his nickname was those days, but it was Mr. Jericho. In his, well, I take that back. He would have been Lionheart. Jericho yet.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Lionheart also. I'll admit that I marked out a little bit when he came to One Night Stand as Lionheart. Because it was just, it's a decent thing to do. Tip of the cap or whatever. You don't have to be so into, I mean, when you're over, you don't have to pretend to be too cool to do shit like that.
Exactly. Well, and that was the beginning of him getting over. I mean, it was, he was a very natural success story in wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't get the push to be big, but the people just fucking got behind him. And look where he went.
Well, plus he rolled with the right crowd. I mean, wasn't he probably at least a small part of, wasn't he like hanging out with people who went to the Heart's Dungeon
Oh,
or
sure,
whatever
of
and all
course,
that?
yeah. You got the, in wrestling, like any industry, the connections will get you everywhere. That's for sure. So what do you think? Are you getting almost as worn as I am? Do we have to let everybody go to bed?
You know what, man? There's so much crazy shit going on in the world at any one moment that I feel like everybody's just ready for bed.
So yeah, let's wrap everything up here for this episode. Mike, any parting words?
No, just keep your head down and keep your shit together, and you'll come out on the other side eventually, and we will too.
I thought you wanted to tell everybody to vote early, and who knows, vote often as long as you vote the right way.
No. You can't give them any ammunition. You just have to make sure you get your shit
Damn right.
submitted on time. And as long as you're of age, you got no excuse not to.
All right, friends. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back soon. Follow us on Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, YouTube, all that good stuff. The Twitter is ShoeDoggM. We'll catch you soon. If you got an hour to waste, why not waste it with us?